Imagine the time you were being reincarnated as a slime. No shit, you probably expected Rimuru. And probably start bullying the writer to make another OP slime wannabe. Overpowered skills. A legendary dragon sealed next to you. Easy mode. Cliche? Yeah, dude, nope. This story doesn't have Veldora. No cheat abilities. No great sage. No all-knowing system whispering answers in your head like ChatGPT on steroids. This slime reincarnated with nothing but a bare-bones system and his own instincts. The dude wandering around, testing things, and failing. Like a lot. He is just a slime. And not a cute one either. More like an ugly, barely holding it together blob, trying to survive its first day in an isekai world that does not care about him. But here's where it gets interesting. What if starting with nothing is the real advantage? What if learning everything the hard way creates something far more terrifying than a gifted hero summoned by some bitchy princess? This is the story of a weak, forgotten, slime clawing its way up from the bottom. From random monster to apex predator. To something the world might one day call a demon lord. If that sounds like your jam, stick with me. No more talking shit, let's start the story. So, out in some weird swamp forest, everything was dark, but then, bam, a crazy bright light showed up and made the whole place glow like a party. When the light finally faded, there was this little blob chilling on a log. Our boy, who was basically just a slime ball with one big eyeball, started looking around, super nervous and totally confused about where the hell he was. All he could remember was that last night he was scrolling on his phone in bed, reading manga, and then, nothing. Next thing he knew, he woke up in this new place and, get this, he had apparently died and ended up in another world. But the funny thing was, our MC really didn't care much about all that, since he figured there were so many stories just like this already, so everyone could get used to this idea pretty quickly. Right now, staying alive seemed way more important than freaking out about being reborn as a slime in a random forest. He decided to check if anyone else was around, so he called out, but after peeking into the forest and seeing a bunch of creepy red eyes staring back at him, he realized he should probably keep it down. There were bugs everywhere, and the air was full of some weird, smoky stuff, but somehow he actually felt kind of comfortable. Still, our hero snapped out of it and thought, bro, now is not the time to relax. He started wondering what he had even turned into. Right then, a notification window popped up in front of him, telling him he was a level 1 slime mold. Even the system was talking trash, calling him a weak creature. Our boy was totally shocked. Of all things to be reborn as, he had to end up as a slime mold, and to make things worse, he saw his health was dropping fast. If he didn't eat something or hibernate soon, he was definitely going to die again, which would just be embarrassing. He started looking around, hoping something edible was nearby. Luckily, he remembered that the system mentioned he had a decomposer trait, and that slime molds could eat wood. He figured he might as well try munching on the log he was chilling on. When he focused on it, his whole body just wrapped around the wood and started breaking it down automatically. He thought it was kind of weird, but the taste wasn't bad at all. It was kind of like a soggy biscuit, which is honestly not the worst thing ever for a slime. After about 15 minutes of munching, he had eaten a huge chunk of the log and even burped. That's when he leveled up, and his health shot back up to full. The system let him know he had gotten a skill point. He checked out his skill window, saw his decompose skill, but had no idea what the heck pulsation was supposed to do. He put the point into pulsation just to see what would happen. Instantly, his body started spreading out like a bunch of spaghetti or webs, and every strand was pulsing like veins. He realized this skill made his inside stuff move back and forth, letting him stretch and move around way easier. It was like some kind of magic, and the knowledge just popped into his head, even though, technically, he didn't have a brain anymore. Tough break, buddy. Since eating more wood wouldn't give him any more points, our slime hero decided to explore a bit. He was hyped about how he could just change his body shape however he wanted, which honestly sounded pretty fun. Crawling down the log, he spotted a mushroom on the ground. He thought about how humans always ended up dead if they ate weird stuff, but his new slime instincts told him this would be delicious. He planned out the shortest path and slid over to the mushroom, then started climbing it with his tendrils. Anyway, although slime molds move slowly, scientists found through maze experiments that no matter how complex the maze, slime molds can find the fastest path to their destination. Even more surprisingly, in a slime mold experiment simulating the Tokyo subway, the slime mold completed in just 26 hours, a route that human engineers took 10 years to plan, and it was more efficient. Okay, back to the story. When our boy got to the top, he was super happy and told himself it was time to eat, but then, he started daydreaming. Imagine this. He pictured himself in a fancy suit, calling out to the pure little mushroom, saying that after dating online forever, they could finally meet for real. The mushroom asked if it was really him, and he tried to act all cool, but then, the ugly little mushroom spun around and told him to just eat her already. Our boy realized too late that she was toxic. Dude totally got scammed. The system was quick to warn him that he'd been poisoned, and his health started dropping crazy fast. In a panic, Our MC chopped off a part of himself and flung himself away from the mushroom. The whole plan had totally failed. He didn't get any experience. He lost some body mass and had even less max health. But at least the poison was gone, so it wasn't all bad. Our boy was scared out of his mind, but he survived by tossing away a limb. He looked at the mushroom and saw that he'd still managed to eat a little chunk of it. He was kind of pissed that he couldn't eat the whole thing, so he told the mushroom to just wait. He'd be back for round 2 when he got stronger. For now, he crawled back up the log to the crater he'd made and munched some more wood. After another 15 minutes, he was back at full health. With his HP maxed out, he went out exploring again, using his new pulsation skill to move. He figured if he could just eat a tiny bit of the mushroom each time, then come back to the log to heal, he could eventually eat the whole thing. He decided to call this plan Move Mountain, so our determined slime climbed back onto the mushroom. Over and over he kept taking bites, healing, and coming back. Eventually, back to his imagination, he's being a cool guy and will conquer the mushroom woman. Meanwhile, the toxic mushroom, sounding super annoyed, said it had already been 8 times and asked if he was really not going to give up. But this time, our slime boy went full cop and told her she was under arrest. He finally managed to cover the whole mushroom and broke it down completely, getting experience and even building up his poison resistance. When he checked his new skills, he realized why the poison had been feeling less nasty each round. But he was still kind of salty that he didn't level up. He thought the mushroom should have given him more points. Oh well, he thought, this place had tons of mushrooms everywhere. Looking around like a hungry beast, he started eating all kinds. Straw pipe, which was safe and tasty, and monk's cap, which was super toxic but made him even more poison-proof. He kept eating until he hit the limit for gaining points from mushrooms, then decided he'd just take the extras home for later. Right then, our boy was on a roll, with a bunch of mushrooms stuck to his body for snacks. He sang happily and called himself a little mushroom expert, with a mushroom in his body that not only serves as emergency rations, but can also protect him. But honestly, that was not even the coolest part. See, back when he was a kid, he used to watch animal shows where crabs would carry sea anemones to scare away octopuses. Our genius slime figured he could do the same thing. If he wore poison mushrooms, maybe monsters would think twice about munching on him. He was feeling pretty clever. But then, the wind started howling, and stuff got wild. Out in the swamp, he spotted a bunch of giant wasps flying by, carrying chunks of meat. Our MC stared at those giant hornets and hoped the poison mushrooms would freak them out. He was just praying they would not notice him. Of course, the universe did not care what he wanted because all of a sudden, this long tongue shot up from below, grabbed one of the hornets, and a giant green frog gulped it down in one bite. Seriously, what the hell? It was just one big monster eating the next. Things got gross, fast. The other hornets were pissed that their buddy got eaten, so they swarmed the frog, stabbing it with their stingers and biting hard. The frog was way tougher than a single hornet, but against so many, even that big guy started taking damage. While our hero watched, he started thinking, when monsters fight and drop dead, maybe he could pick up some leftovers. Decomposing monster meat had to be worth way more experience than plain old wood and mushrooms, right? But before he could even finish that thought, the frog busted out some insane move. He opened his mouth and suddenly used a skill called Empowered Tongue, snatching up all the hornets at once and eating them in a single go. Our MC could not believe what he just saw. But bro, it got crazier. Because right after that, a huge shadow fell over the frog. Suddenly, a gigantic snake leaped out, mouth wide open, and chomped straight down. Blood went everywhere. And then, standing there in the swamp, was a massive bird. Its tail? That was the same snake that just ate the frog. The bird turned its huge eye on our poor slime, who froze up, totally panicking. Out of pure desperation, Slimy tried to offer his mushrooms to the monster bird, hoping she would let him live if he just surrendered his snacks. He figured he was screwed anyway, so why not give up? The bird just stared at its mushrooms, then raised its head and flapped those giant wings. The wind she made almost blew our hero straight off the log. He even lost 30 HP just from the gust. But good news, the bird took off and left him alone. After all that chaos, the swamp was still dark. Our MC put his mushrooms away and sat there on the dead tree, shaking like a leaf. He realized he was at the absolute bottom of the food chain, but honestly, because the monsters were so far above him, maybe he was too small for the big ones to care about eating. Looking at his system window, he saw that even after 4 level ups in one night, he was still a weak little creature. He started wondering how he could ever survive, let alone become strong, as a slime mold. Now, he just wanted to go to sleep and hoped he would wake up back in his comfy bed. Of course, that was not going to happen. The next day, sunlight hit the swamp, and things got worse. Some green slime dripped from above and landed right on him like acid. It burned, dropping his HP instantly. The system popped up, telling him he had gained a new skill called Burst. He had no idea what just happened, but that hurt a lot. While he was still confused, our MC saw a snail crawling over to his pile of mushrooms. The snail used a skill called acid liquor to melt a mushroom right there, then started slurping up the oozy bits. That wasn't nice, bro. Then Slimy yelled at the snail, getting its attention. It was bad enough that the thing had stolen his food, but getting acid spat on his face? That was just mean. The snail looked up, whining like it was the real victim here. Slimy said that acting all sad was not going to work this time. But as he watched the snail standing there, still sniffling, he started to feel a little bad. They were both just weak monsters trying to survive, after all. Maybe he was being too harsh. Our boy let out a sigh and told the snail not to worry about it. There were plenty of mushrooms, so sharing was not a big deal. He said the snail could go ahead and eat, and the snail let out a happy sound, munching away. Watching this, Slimy thought it was just like those manga stories where two rivals fight and end up becoming friends. He started daydreaming about the two of them teaming up, growing stronger together, and having a better shot at surviving. Companions were important, right? So, he slid over to the snail and suggested they should party up. He said that since they were both small monsters, they could look out for each other, and he would make sure there were always mushrooms to share. The snail seemed happy about it, but then, out of nowhere, it jumped at our hero and bit off a chunk of his body. Man, that hurt. He watched his HP drop and realized that, in this world, monsters did not care about feelings. It was just eat or be eaten. Our poor guy had been tricked by the snail's sad face, and even though they were both weak, the snail was obviously stronger. He started thinking that it was time to leave before things got even worse. But the snail was not done. It got up and came after him, making it clear that it had no plans to let our MC go. Our boy was in big trouble now. But he was not about to give up. He decided to use his skill points right away, putting them into pulsation to level up that move. With all his power, he rushed forward, crawling over the dead tree. But here was the problem. Even with his new upgrade, he could only get a little distance in 3 whole minutes. Suddenly, the snail did something weird. It lifted its head, and its throat started getting big and puffy. Then, it spat out more of that nasty acid liquor, and our MC took a direct hit, dropping a bunch of HP. That stuff did not just burn, his whole body split down the middle. While he was lying there in 2 pieces, he wondered which half of his mind would stay in. Did he always control the bigger one? That was a fun question, but now was not the time for that science lesson. Because above him, the snail was already right there, its mouth open and acid drooling everywhere, ready to finish him off. The snail dove straight into Slimy's other body and started eating him. But lucky for our poor slime, the half with his brain managed to slide away in time. He was desperate and pretty pissed, thinking there was no way he was going down like this. He told himself a slime mold could always get revenge, as long as he stayed alive. The snail finished snacking on his old body and turned back, ready for another round. But this time, our MC was ready. He grabbed one of those poison mushrooms he was carrying, and when the snail attacked, he blasted it right into the snail's mouth, using burst. The snail swallowed the mushroom, and just like that, poison started tearing it up from the inside. The monster thrashed around, totally losing control, and then dropped dead right next to him. A system window popped up, letting him know he had won and had leveled up. Man, talk about clutch. Then, finally, our hero let himself relax. He was so relieved that his crazy plan worked. He remembered how the snail always spit acid on mushrooms first, never just biting into them, and realized it must not have any poison resistance at all. Well, that snail picked the wrong slime mold to mess with, because after that, he became the first big monster he defeated since he arrived in this world. Slimy poked the dead snail, wondering what sort of loot or power he would get for eating this thing. He climbed up on the body and started thinking about how gross snail meat must taste, but reasoned that it was still meat, right? He tried to hype himself up by pretending this was fancy French food. But the second he started to decompose the snail, his mouth filled with the most disgusting taste ever. It was salty and sour, like eating a big glob of snot. The system popped up and said decomposition stopped, so he did not even get experience points. That was just cruel. He did not want to waste the victory, though. He put his pride in the trash and told himself if he did not get stronger now, it would all be for nothing. Either he ate this gross stuff or he died. So, our boy just squeezed his metaphorical nose and forced himself to use decompose again. The swamp echoed with the sound of him gagging while he choked it down. That sounded painful. After a huge struggle, he actually ate all of it. He threw away the shell and finally leveled up. The system said he was back at full strength, but honestly, he felt worse than before. He checked out all his new skills and got super annoyed that he still did not have a single attack move. But, at the end of the day, he was just a slime mold, so what could he do? He tried to cheer himself up, thinking even if he had attack skills, he would never be brave enough to go pick fights with monsters anyway. So, he made a decision. He would just keep leveling up. Pulsation. If he could not punch harder, he might as well move faster. He put more points in, then tested things out. He could now zip along at 20 centimeters a second. That was way faster than before, but then he did the math. Barely 0.7, 8 kilometers an hour. Our MC almost cried at how slow he still was. A whole week went by after that fight. He left his old log behind and lived quietly, hiding out and eating whatever he could find. It was boring, but it worked. He leveled up 2 more times just by being careful and not drawing attention. Now that he really understood his slimy body, he decided it was time to find a new base. He dropped to the ground and thought he would grab some supplies before moving out. He used pulsation again, spreading his body flat and branching out in little veins to cover a big area. The more HP he had, the more ectoplasm he got, so his reach grew too. This way, he could eat mushrooms, store snacks inside himself, and check new places all at once. It was actually a pretty smart system. While he was out collecting mushrooms, he suddenly bumped into another snail. He tried to decompose it, but nope, totally failed. Then, one of his tentacles got zapped with pain, and when he pulled back, he realized this new snail had just melted part of his body. He saw a stream of acid coming at him again, but now he was way faster and narrowly dodged it. This snail was a lot quicker than the last one, but our boy had learned not to panic. The snail rushed in for another attack, blasting him with acid and doing a lot of damage. The snail actually thought it had won and got closer, all cocky. But out of nowhere, one of Slimy's tentacles popped up and shoved a poison mushroom right into its mouth. Our MC had let the snail hit him on purpose, just to set this up. Once you knew the enemy's weakness, it was too easy. That was the difference between dumb monsters and a genius slime mold like him. Then, after that, he starts to decompose the dead snails again. And honestly, he was still hating every second of eating those things. Even after leveling up, snail meat was never going to taste good, bro. But he had no time to cry about it. He had to keep moving. After that, off in the distance, he noticed a shadow. He thought, here we go again. Probably another snail. He told the shadow to come out already, acting all tough. But nope, this was no snail. When the shadow got closer, it turned out to be a blade-legged centipede, and man, that thing was huge. Its sharp, pointy legs clicked against the ground while it towered over our poor slime. Now, our MC was seriously freaking out. The centipede did not wait. It lunged right at Slimy, but our guy pulled out some poison mushrooms, hoping to scare it away as he did with the snails. But that wasn't happening. The centipede just sliced the mushrooms into pieces like it was nothing. Our hero started to realize that his usual trick was totally useless here. That was when the centipede hit him hard, using some move called Myriapod Blade Strangle, and bit deep into his body. But here came the twist. While the centipede was chomping away, it suddenly started getting pulled inside the slime mold instead. Slimy thought that maybe their bodies just worked weird together, or maybe being a slime had some real perks, because sharp blades and bites didn't bother him. That was a win, dude. Then he began absorbing the centipede as it struggled, thinking this was awesome, free XP, right to his door, and he won't be polite. After finishing off the centipede, he felt stronger and more confident. He went on a little bug hunting trip, even got cocky enough to try for a hornet, but it was too fast for him. He saw a cockroach and just gave up. Nobody wants to eat a cockroach unless they're desperate. Our MC started feeling good about himself, just munching his way through the forest, eating everything he could find. He was climbing up in the food chain, leveling up faster than ever before. He even started thinking maybe being a slime mold was not so bad after all. As he looked around, he thought that it was finally time to change up his menu. He wanted to try some giant frog legs, real gourmet stuff. Just right then, he figured, if he could survive the early nightmare, things would only get easier from here. Just like a snowball rolling down a hill, his power would grow and maybe, just maybe, he could end up at the very top of this world. Our boy was feeling pretty hyped, chilling on a pile of monster bodies and laughing about his new life. Then, he spotted another pond. He stretched his body toward it, thinking that the swamp must be full of these ponds. He wondered if there were some cool resources underwater, and maybe he should go check them out. So, he tried to slither into the water, but the second he touched it, his whole body started swelling up, like he was about to pop. It hit him that he was basically made of jelly, and water could mess him up too because he is a single-celled organism thanks to something called osmosis. Good job, science class. He yanked himself out of the pond, deciding to stay dry for a while. But then, something big and crabby crawled out of the pond. Slimy took a good look and wondered if this monster was some kind of crab. It's such a big crab. He started daydreaming about delicious crab claws and how tasty normal food used to be in his past life. After eating bugs for so long, he was ready for a real treat. Trying his luck, Slimy called out to the crab, saying he wanted to be friends. But the crab just stared at him from a rock, blowing bubbles and looking super suspicious. He realized his smooth talk was useless here. He thought about how he could poison the pond instead, but before he could act, the crab blasted him with a water gun attack called Bubble Barrage. A jet of water shot right through him, leaving a hole in his body. He was more confused than hurt, trying to understand how a crab just shot him like that. The crab did it again. So our boy bailed, hiding behind a tree, and feeling kind of salty about getting owned by a crab. He figured out real quick that this crab was a whole level above all the bugs he'd beaten. Going back out meant instant crab attack. He decided to just wait it out and see who has more patience. The crab went back into the water, and our boy was confused because the crab already given up. But then it crawled out again, heading right for him, with claws raised high. This thing was fast. Way faster than he expected. Slimy zipped up a tree, hoping to put something solid between him and that water gun. Suddenly, he spotted a spider in his way. He told the spider to move, saying he was busy here, but the spider did not care. He warned them not to be dumb because he had eaten plenty of bugs like that already. Still, the spider blocked him and then used arachnid slash, chopping off a piece of his body. Slimy was stunned. Wasn't he supposed to be immune to slashing? Turns out this spider was just a lot stronger than him, and it started eating part of his body right there. Things only got worse when the crab showed up again, blasting another water gun at them. Slimy realized he was totally surrounded and in big trouble now. The crab fired again, but this time, Slimy dodged out of the way, and the water jet hit the spider instead, snapping off one of its legs. The spider was shocked and furious, so it jumped down to go after the crab. Our MC could only watch as his two enemies started fighting each other. And the spider was not playing around, bro. It fired off some sticky silk called arachnid silk shot and grabbed the crab, then went in for a big slash. But that crab had armor for days. So, the spider just bounced off while the crab swung its giant claw. Next thing you know, the crab's claw was wrapped up tight, stuck in even more web. Our slime dude, Slimy, was watching all this from his safe spot on the tree, feeling proud that his plan worked. Those monsters were really beating each other up. The crab was not stuck for long though. It blasted out a ton of bubbles and broke the web, just in time to see the spider aiming for its eye. But the crab blocked the attack and, in the chaos, snapped off one of the spider's legs. Then it tried to smash the spider's head with its claw. But that spider was quick and jumped away at the last second. The crab looked pretty annoyed, not gonna lie. Now the spider really turned it up. It started running super fast around the crab, wrapping it in a web from every direction. In just a few seconds, the crab was totally trapped, and the spider stood on top like it owned the place. Slimy was honestly shocked. He did not expect the spider to pull that off. But just as the spider was about to finish off the crab went absolutely wild. It started shooting its water gun everywhere, even slicing a tree in half. The crab was using the water blast to jump around and break free, and the spider did not stand a chance. It got caught and chopped into pieces by the water attack. The crab didn't even stop after that. It just kept blasting crazy water shots. While our MC tried his best to dodge, he realized the crab was basically fighting for its life now, going on pure survival instinct. Finally, the crab ran out of water. It looked totally dried out, lying on its side and peeking out from behind a tree. Slimy wondered if the fight was really over, or if the crab was just faking. Carefully, he crawled over to the two dead monsters, talking trash, saying he had warned the crab about shooting everywhere and calling it weak now. But he had a problem. The crab might still be dangerous if he got too close, and he could not just cover its mouth or use poison, since it would close up tight. If he waited too long, the crab might recover and then it would be game over for him. That's when our guy spotted a rock lying nearby. First, he tried to store the rock in his inventory, but the system said nope, not enough space. His bag was based on the size of his body, and he had lost a good chunk fighting. So, he dumped all the mushrooms out of his storage and finally fit the rock. But now he felt super heavy. Still, he had to do it. He stretched up to the top of the tree, calling down to the crab that he was there to collect him. The crab looked up right as Slimy jumped down with the rock. He freaked out, trying to shoot water, but it was too weak. It could only watch as Slimy dropped the rock right onto its head. And boom, game over for the crab. Our MC had finally won this insane three-way fight. And he even leveled up. Now, it was time to eat. Slimy dragged himself back to his dead tree log, ready for a real meal. He had prepped the crab, dipping it in a special sauce he made, and took a bite. The taste exploded in his mouth. Dude, it was actually delicious. He remembered the old days, eating gross stuff like wood and snotty snail meat, and nearly cried. This was his first good food since reincarnating as a slime. It healed his whole soul, for real. He decided right then he needed to survive in this wild world because there had to be even more tasty food out there. He even joked about turning his life into a food manga as he dove into the meal, thanking nature while he broke down the entire crab. When he was finally full, he sat there just vibing, feeling better than ever. But then his stomach started hurting badly. He swelled up and could not handle the pain. He started freaking out, wondering what was going on inside him. Suddenly, he remembered the crab's water gun move. Oh, crap, he had absorbed that attack. Now, the water was messing him up from the inside. He tried to push it out, and a little spurt shot out from his body, but it was super weak. This was not the powerful attack he wanted at all. He tried again and again, but every time, only a tiny, useless splash came out, and he couldn't even aim it. He thought this was the most ridiculous skill ever, but he wasn't ready to give up. So, he puffed himself up and tried the move while activating his burst skill. Suddenly, his slime shot out like a cannonball, punching a hole straight through the old crab shell. That was it. He had just unlocked a new skill called Cytoplasm Spray. Finally, something cool. He wondered if there was still a cooldown like before, since his burst skill used to need 5 minutes to recharge. So, he tested it out, firing multiple slime shots at the crab shell. Turns out, he could spam the move now, no more cooldown. His Cytoplasm Spray even leveled up as he kept using it. The only problem? Every shot costs him a little bit of his own HP. So if he went too wild, he'd end up dried out and helpless. But at least now he understood his skills better. As a slime, he had no magic, just the power of his own ectoplasm. All his attacks had to come from what his body could do. Nothing fancy. Kinda lame, but there was no other way. He just had to break down and eat more stuff to get stronger. So, feeling hungry again, he went over and ate the spider too. But, as expected, it tasted disgusting. Talking about eating, Slimy started to think about weird stuff, when a totally wild idea hit him. If slime molds like him got bigger by eating stuff, what would even happen if he ate himself? Classic Slimy, always asking the real questions. So he rolled over, leaving the dead body of the spider in the place where that crazy spider fight went down, and there it was, a chunk of his own body, just sitting there from when the spider chopped him up. He figured he might as well try to reabsorb it, and bro, as soon as he did, it was like a lightning bolt shot through him. Suddenly, he saw memories in his head that definitely weren't his, and he finally understood those chopped-off pieces couldn't think, but they could still eat things all by themselves. And when he took them back in, he got bonus points and HP for everything that little chunk had eaten. It was like hacking the system, and our hero loved it. Slimy immediately started thinking that maybe he could break himself into little worker minions, send them out to eat, and then merge back together for double or triple the loot. Dude was ready to become Slime CEO. To test it, he split off a small bit of himself. But the thing shriveled up instantly. That's when he realized, if a slime clone had less than 30 HP, it would just rot away. With his full health, he could only divide into several clones before they started self-destructing. But then, our MC had a light bulb moment. If he kept feeding the clones, he could make as many as he wanted. So, he spat out a bigger piece, and boom, a proper clone. He set his new buddy on spider meat duty and used it to bring himself back to top shape. Dude was seriously leveling up his strategy game. Safety first, after all. Now that he understood his body better, Slimy felt like a total boss. He had immunity to pokey stuff, and even monster slashes barely made a scratch. No joke, unless someone pulled out some super special moves, this slime was not getting wrecked. But there was one thing still bugging him: magic. He started wondering if he was just living in the no magic part of the world or if he hadn't met the right monsters yet. Anyway, Slimy decided to give the pond a try, so he dove right in. Not the best idea, bro. A crab grabbed him and started munching away. He looked around and saw even more crabs chomping on bits of his body, leaving a weird trail. But here's the twist. The main Slimy managed to sneak right past them and started eating a tree nearby instead. Then, just to flex, he made a whole tree fall right on top of the crab pack. The trunk crashed down, and suddenly he had 6 dead crabs and a ton of experience. He ate all those crabs up, tossed out the shells, and decided to practice his new ectoplasm ejection move by blasting slime bullets at one of the empty shells. He filled it with holes and leveled up his skill again. He spent the next 2 days grinding, just quiet practice and target shooting. He could now fire off a 30-shot burst. And you know our dude was thinking about how to kick it up another notch. That's when he had another genius idea. Why not load his slime shots with poison mushrooms? That way, he could blast monsters from far away and poison them without getting close. And if he stuffed a rock in the shot, instant smash attack. He called himself a genius for that one, and honestly, he wasn't wrong. Suddenly, he heard a sound. Slimy turned and saw glowing stuff coming from a tree hole. He got all hyped, climbed up, and then, bam! He nearly died of shock. There was a ghostly owl just floating there. Slimy freaked out and tried to run, thinking he'd finally found his first magic monster and that he had to get out of there, like, yesterday. But the owl had already noticed him. The thing fired off a skill called symbiotic scrying, and Slimy felt real panic for the first time in ages. Meanwhile, somewhere far away, there was a girl with pink hair watching everything through some kind of magic. She put her hand over her eye, and her teammates asked what she saw. She said it was just a weird monster, nothing special. The group was walking through the forest, kind of confused because they hadn't run into any tough monsters. The girl told her pet to sniff around and get them out, since their magic radios were down and they couldn't call the guildmaster for help. Back to our slime hero. He was running for his life from that ghost owl, knowing there was no way he could fight a magic beast. He needed to escape, fast. He looked at the pond, thinking maybe if he could just get across he'd be safe. But bro, how was he supposed to cross? He used his burst skill, flying halfway over the pond, then fired a plasmodial barrage to push himself even farther, finally making it to the other side. He didn't stop running until he found a thick patch of forest and took cover by a tree. He was totally spooked, but knew he needed to eat something to recover. Gathering up some twigs and munching them down, he thought about how he could beat other monsters at his own level. But if one of those high-class magic monsters showed up, he was toast. Suddenly, he felt a chill. Something way scarier than that owl was creeping up on him. He wondered if the owl was still chasing him or if this was something even worse. Then he saw it. A massive finger, glowing with golden energy, crashed to the ground right by him. It was just a claw, but it was packed with pure magic. It is called as a golden finger. Slimy's instincts went wild. If he could break down and absorb this thing, he'd get a mountain of experience and might even evolve into something totally new. So, our boy Slimy wasted no time and started climbing that massive golden claw, all hyped to chow down. He covered the thing with his slime, turning on his dissolution and decomposition skill. But the second he tried to absorb it, his body went nuts. He started swelling up and it hurt like hell. The system straight up told him he was too weak. His decompose skill just wasn't high enough for something this powerful, and now his own cells were getting attacked. The poor guy started losing HP just by hanging out on the finger. Not a great start, bro. He didn't wait around to get turned into goo. He sliced off the infected part and bailed, jumping over to a log so he could recover. While munching on the dead tree, the MC felt salty about wasting this golden opportunity. He really wished he'd put more points into decompose because now he had this top-tier snack right in front of him but couldn't even touch it. Plus, the finger was huge. There was no way he could just stuff it inside his body for later. So, he decided the only way out was to get stronger, max out decompose, and come back later for round 2. Of course, fate had other plans. Suddenly, the ground started shaking, and our boy thought maybe it was an earthquake or something. The earth under the claw went soft, and a giant hole opened up, sucking the finger, the logs, and nearly Slimy himself underground. Our dude had to cut off another chunk of himself and blast away to a tree just to survive, but even that tree started getting pulled into the pit. He barely managed to ooze away in the opposite direction before the earth closed up, totally freaked out and feeling extra tiny in this crazy world. He was so close to crying. Bro, no way he could act all tough now. All he could do was hide out and train if he wanted to live another day. But what he didn't know was that deep, deep underground, way below mole tunnels and treasure chests, the golden finger landed in a pitch-black hole. And then, out of nowhere, this massive mouth with giant teeth showed up and ate the whole thing in one bite. Some monster just scored big. So much for Slimy's epic snack plan. Meanwhile, our MC had slithered far from the owl and golden finger, pushing deeper into the forest until he finally found a spot that looked safe enough for a base. He decided this would do for now and figured he'd pick up his clone's XP tomorrow. He climbed a tree and got to work, using decompose to dig a hole inside it, making a roomy hideout with a tiny entrance so big monsters couldn't fit in. He set up the place with glowing mushrooms, then made himself a mossy bed. Bro, this place was decked out, mushrooms, chunks of meat, even wood for snacking. And because our boy is clever, he set a fake entrance below his real base, linked by a narrow tunnel only he could squeeze through. That's some pro-level security right there. He even said that he was a mold with a home too right now. Feeling safe for once, Slimy grabbed a crab leg, ready to eat in peace, until a loud buzzing noise totally ruined the vibe. He peeked out to see what the hell was making all that noise, and spotted a whole swarm of hornets flying by, sounding like a squadron of mini fighter jets. That gave him an idea, and he fired a rock-filled slime bullet at them, totally blasting a hornet to pieces. He realized teasing these bugs could be a solid way to get more experience. Well, the hornets did not like that. They zoomed over to his hideout, all angry and ready to sting. Slimy rushed inside, and, just as planned, the hornets swarmed into the hole after him. But the trap was set. He scooped them all up inside his body and squished them before they could do anything. Some of the smarter hornets decided to bounce, so our MC followed them and found their nest. Jackpot. But before he could do anything else, a few more hornets spotted him. In seconds, the whole hive was chasing him down, and he was in for it now. He wasn't about to run, though. He figured their attacks couldn't hurt him, so he stood his ground, ready to take them all on. But the hornets just straight up covered him, piling on top until he was buried under a mountain of angry bugs. The heat inside the pile got insane, and the system warned him that his cells were literally dying from the temperature. Now, he was the one panicking as his HP started dropping fast. So he blasted apart the pile with a primordial barrage, sending hornet bits flying everywhere. But that wasn't the end. A huge hornet showed up, blocking Slimy's next attack with a beeswax shield, and even tossing the slime bullet back at him. Things just kept getting worse. Another hornet yanked out its own stinger, used it, like a magic wand, summoning a whole new swarm. Our MC could not believe his eyes. Was this a bug mage? Did hornets evolve to use magic now? That was not okay. The hornet mage gave the order, and the whole crew rushed Slimy. He fired off his plasmodial barrage, taking down a bunch, but there were just too many. Each shot chewed through his ectoplasm. Lucky for him, He'd left a clone in the tree to break down wood and send him nutrients, so at least his HP was getting topped up. Now the Hornets started using those beeswax shields to block every bullet, and our MC was getting really annoyed. He thought about using rocks to power up his shots, but he only had one left. As he focused on blasting the shield Hornet, two sneaky warriors tried to sting him from behind, but it was a big mistake. He just slurped them up, thanking them for the free meal, and gobbled their stingers for good measure. With those new stingers, he powered up a slime bullet and blasted it straight through the shield and into the Hornet behind it. That's how our hero rolled, turning every disaster into a win, one bug at a time. So, the Hornet Mage totally lost it after Slimy blasted that shield Hornet. The Mage freaked out, telling the other Hornets to back off and stop going after our boy. He stood there, all cocky, asking if the Hornets were running away now because they were scared of him. He was feeling pretty good, until the Hornet Mage started waving its wand and things got wild. The Mage started doing some magic, and honey began swirling around its wand. Slimy's eyes lit up. He seriously wanted to taste that honey. But bro, things turned bad real quick when the Mage used its Spark Ember spell and set the honey on fire. Next thing you know, a flaming honey ball was flying right at him. It hit Slimy hard, burning a huge chunk of his body. That looked painful as hell. Then the Mage kept firing more, burning honey globs, and Slimy started panicking for real. Fire magic was his worst nightmare, and the sticky honey made it even worse, gluing the flames to his body. He realized he was totally outmatched here. Trying to fight these guys was a lost cause, so he turned and ran, dodging fireballs like his life depended on it. And it kind of did. As he ran, he kept firing plasma barrage shots back at the wasps, but those guys just powered up their twin beeswax barrier and blocked everything. Slimy thought that was so unfair. Like, seriously, where was his OP shield? But, bro, it was about to get even crazier. The Hornet Mage whipped out another spell, Swarm Summon, and suddenly, a bunch of self-destructing bees appeared out of nowhere. These little maniacs zoomed straight for the tree where our MC was hiding and just exploded on contact. The blast sent him flying through the air, crashing onto another tree branch. The Mage saw where he landed and sent some of the wasp warriors to break the branch. Down, Slimy went, dropping right into a giant pile of wasps. The Mage charged up a massive honey fireball and, with all the self-destruct bees surrounding him, unleashed everything at once. There was no way to escape this time. The fireball hit, and the whole swamp shook with one huge explosion. Burnt tree bark and slime chunks went flying everywhere. The wasps all checked out the aftermath and, seeing nothing left but bits of slime, figured the threat was finished. The Mage sent everybody back to their posts, mission complete. Or, so they thought. The thing is, our MC was never that easy to kill. Suddenly, he darted right for the wasp nest, total sneak attack mode. The few wasps guarding the place tried to stop him, but his body just squished right through their stings. They were way too late. The main swarm was still outside, and there weren't enough defenders left. Turns out, Slimy had been planning this from the very start. While he was burrowed in the tree, he'd secretly been making a tunnel straight to the wasp nest, all while the action was happening on the outside. When things got hot, he even split off a big chunk of himself as a decoy to draw the hornets away. As everyone chased the decoy, he snuck through his tunnel right into the heart of the nest. Once he got there, he stretched out his body and turned on his search skill, crawling through every single room, looking for that sweet honey. But, bro, he actually had something else to do first. He put off grabbing the honey for now. There was a more important target. He finally found it. The queen bee's lair. The queen was busy munching on some meat while her attendants freaked out at the sight of the intruder. Seeing Slimy coil around their queen, the other bees went nuts. Our boy warned them not to move, saying their queen was in his hands and brandishing a rock as a threat. The queen screamed in pain as he squeezed tighter around her. The mage realized what was happening and sent the warriors to attack, but they were too late. Our boy was actually disappointed. He had hoped for some kind of negotiation, but these bugs only cared about instinct. So, he crushed the queen's body and tore off her head, just like that. That was brutal, but what did they expect? The mage was devastated, and suddenly, the whole hive began falling apart. Slimy realized that the queen bee acted like a central controller. Without her, the entire swarm collapsed and turned useless. Guess that's how bug society works. Right then, the system popped up to tell Slimy he'd leveled up. He was now at level 21. He also got a message that decomposing bee parts would only give experience for the next 24 hours, and any HP above max would disappear after an hour. Not only was his poison resistance way stronger now, but he'd unlocked a new skill called Central Command. But when he tried to add skill points to it, nothing happened. The system told him he didn't have enough underlings yet to use it. That was a bummer. He really wanted to max out his Decompose skill, but apparently, racial skills were locked, so he had to keep upgrading Pulsation. At least the loot was awesome. His HP pool expanded and his inner slime space got bigger. Plus, that honey? It was gold, an absolute treasure. But even after all this, as he looked at the ruined hive, The poor guy felt weird. Like, why didn't he feel happy about the win, even though he didn't even have a heart anymore? Maybe this whole eat or be eaten thing just kind of sucks sometimes. He started thinking about the past, like that crab he'd taken out before. He imagined the crab's kid waiting at home, wondering why dad wasn't back yet to play. Maybe the crab had told his wife he'd be late because he had business, asking her to tell their son not to worry. His wife probably told the little crab that dad was working hard for their family, so be patient. Time passed, and soon even the crab's wife felt worried. What if he wasn't just out drinking? She decided to take their boy out searching. The little crab sang his favorite anime song on the way, until his mom told him to keep it down. Then they saw someone stumbling toward them. The baby crab cheered, thinking it was his dad. But as he ran closer, he saw something was wrong. The crab had turned into a zombie, totally taken over by a slimy monster eating him from the inside. There was a scream that echoed through the whole swamp. That's when Slimy realized he really was turning into the villain, huh? So, our poor guy was sitting there, overthinking everything like usual. He started feeling super guilty about eating so many creatures, probably because deep down he still had a human mind. But then he snapped out of it, realizing that, bro, he was a slime now. In this world, he didn't really have a choice. If he wasn't the hunter, he was totally going to get hunted. Only the strong survived here, and that meant eating and decomposing were just what he had to do. No point in getting all emotional about it. Survival first, feelings second. Anyway, he remembered that he'd left a piece of himself out there somewhere this morning, and he needed to go collect it. Who knew what surprises were waiting for him this time? So, our MC rushed over to the spot, moving as fast as his little slimy body could go. But right when he got close, he slowed down, confused as hell. There was a campfire up ahead. Like, what the hell? Who was camping in this crazy swamp? He crept up super carefully, peeking from behind the bushes. And dude, he could not believe his eyes. Actual humans! They were chilling around the fire, just hanging out. One guy asked a pink-haired girl named Nia if she wasn't afraid of poking herself because she was leaning against a giant pig. That was wild enough. But then the girl said that the steelback's bristles were actually really soft when it was relaxed. She thanked the pig for its hard work today and said they'd need it again tomorrow. Bro, she was treating that pig like a teammate. Another guy, Rake Carter, started getting all serious and told everyone that they had wanted to search for their guildmaster, but now they were lost themselves. He blamed himself as the leader and said sorry to his friends. A dude named Cole Fern tried to make him feel better. He said their magic radios weren't working, but there were no high-level monsters around, and the forest had become a weird maze. Nobody could have seen this coming, so Carter shouldn't blame himself. They hadn't found the guildmaster yet, but there was no reason to panic. The guildmaster was supposed to be super strong, one of the top 3 leaders of all the guilds. Once they found their way out, they just needed to report back to the church. Carter agreed the guildmaster was crazy strong, but pointed out that no one had heard from him for 2 years. Rumors were flying around that the guildmaster had gotten on the church's bad side. It all started when the guildmaster took a mission from the Pope and came to this swamp. 10 years ago, Guildmaster Gon had started the 100-style guild, which let anyone join as long as they followed the rules. No lying, no bullying, and no evil stuff. The guildmaster always shared the loot with everyone, so the guild got super famous and grew fast. That made other people jealous, especially the church. After the guildmaster disappeared, the guild started falling apart, people quit, and now only a few loyal folks were left. Carter said he had tried to rally more people to search, but only Nia and Cole came along, so he was grateful to them. Nia told him not to worry about it. If the guildmaster hadn't made the guild, she never would have become an adventurer at all. But Cole joked that, with her ability to control strong monsters, she could join any guild she wanted. If something happened to the guildmaster, she had no reason to worry about getting into another group. She got annoyed and told him to shut up and go to sleep, while Cole just told her to pretend he never said it. Meanwhile, our slime hero was hiding in the bushes, trying desperately to catch every word. He knew he needed intel about humans, but it was hard to hear anything from so far away. So, being a clever little blob, he stretched out a bit of himself to act like a listening antenna, sneaking the slime closer to the humans. Well, he thought he was being sneaky, but he wasn't sneaky at all. Cole spotted him right away and blasted his body with an ice spike. The system warned our MC that the cold was super effective, and his speed dropped by 90%. He started freaking out. Getting hit with frost was a nightmare. Cole told the others not to worry, saying he had handled the monster, but they were already on high alert, looking around for trouble. They quickly found the piece of slime stuck on the ice. The giant pig, the steelback, came over, sniffed it, and then actually bit the slime off the ice spike. Our boy panicked like crazy as the pig started sucking him up like a noodle, about to slurp him into its mouth and end his story right there. But Nia told the pig to stop eating him, saying they shouldn't just kill anything that moved. She said the slime was harmless, just a little monster passing through, and asked the steelback to let it go. The pig spat Slimy out, and he landed in her hand. She looked at him and said he seemed familiar, like she'd seen him somewhere before. Then she asked Slimy if he wanted to make a monster contract with her. Our MC felt like he'd just met a real angel. Finally, he was going to have his own isekai friendship, so he agreed right away. But Carter ruined the moment, telling her to stop fooling around. He said they still needed to find a way out of the woods tomorrow and shouldn't waste time or magic on a weak little slime. That really ticked off our protagonist. Nia let him go. And that's when Slimy realized, bro, these people couldn't even hear him talk. Suddenly, he had a genius idea. He started stretching his body and formed the word, hello, on the ground. He was sure the humans would be shocked to see a monster spelling out words. But instead, they just thought he was pooping or something. That was embarrassing as hell. Slimy finally realized they didn't speak Chinese anyway, so there was no point trying to communicate. He gave up and bounced out of there. At least now he knew there were humans in this world, but there was a language barrier to deal with too. Man, nothing was ever easy for our little slime. So, our boy crossed the river, hoping the creepy ghost owl wasn't around this time. He just wanted to grab his lost pieces and get out of there. With his fancy new nucleus command skill, he searched for all those split bodies he'd left behind in the swamp. Dude, this skill was insane. He could actually sense where every bit of him had crawled off to, even through the thick forest. He rushed over, following the signal, and finally found the first split body. But when he saw how massive it had grown, he just stared for a second. Like, what the hell had this thing been eating? Our MC figured it must have decomposed a ton of stuff while he was gone. So he used reclamation and started absorbing his own body back, feeling that sweet flood of experience points hit him. His HP shot up to the max, and he was riding high. Not wasting any time, Slimy zipped around the swamp, picking up all his other split bodies and sucking them up one by one. Man, he was feeling stacked now. But the last one was a problem. The signal for it kept getting weaker, and he started to worry about his precious EXP snack. He finally found it hiding behind some mushrooms, but, of course, things couldn't be that easy. There was a dumb snail munching on his split body. Our hero was not having that. He shot a plasma bullet straight at the snail, pissed off that it was eating his own flesh. The split body was safe, trembling in fear, and he tried to comfort it, letting it know that he was just there to pick it up. But before he could reach it, boom, out of nowhere, a giant tongue smashed the mushrooms, snatching the split body away. A massive frog just gobbled up Slimy's baby right in front of him. Bro, he was shaking with rage. That frog was gonna pay for eating his kid, no question. Then, he fired a stone plasma bullet at the frog, nailing it right in the face and telling it to choke on it. For a second, he thought he had this fight in the bag, but then, the frog just caught the stone with its tongue like it was nothing. That was a big, oh crap moment. The frog turned and hopped right into the lake, and our MC chased after it, determined not to let it get away with his meal. The frog lifted its head above the water, so Slimy blasted more plasma bullets at it, but the thing dodged everything by diving underwater. Annoying as hell. Then it jumped out again. Slimy figured, yeah, frogs have to come up for air, so he thought he finally had it. But nope, this time the frog straight up stood on the water, fangs out, using some wild skill called power release, and launched itself right at him. Our protagonist barely managed to dodge and shot another bullet, hitting the frog smack in the eye. Then, thinking fast, he used his tendrils to grab a tree and pull himself up, swinging away like some weird Spider-Man impersonator. He realized the frog wasn't running away at all. It was trying to lure him into the pond for an easy kill. Guess he had gotten a little too cocky after that whole hornet hive thing. In this swamp, anyone could end up as dinner if they weren't paying attention. Meanwhile, the frog, now with a bloody eye, just glared at him and leapt again, but our boy was out of stones. He fired normal plasma bullets, only to get totally shocked when the frog just ate every single one. This thing was a monster. The frog landed on the tree, shot out its tongue, and yanked Slimy toward it. Slimy tried to hang on to the tree branch, but it snapped under the pressure. Things were looking grim until Slimy used the broken branch as a spear and stabbed the frog right in the mouth, knocking it into the lake. He was sweating bullets after that one. That was way too close for comfort. It sucked that he lost the frog's corpse in the water, though no tasty frog legs for him. But before he could even relax, two creepy eyes popped up from the lake, and suddenly the frog exploded out, tearing through his body and smashing through the tree he was on. The whole trunk went flying, crashing into the ground. The frog had changed. Now it was all white with crystal eyes, standing on the broken tree and chomping on Slimy's pieces. Like, what the hell? Was this a zombie frog or something? Then, our MC crawled out of the crushed wood, staring at this freaky, sanctified frog. Then, the weird lumps on the frog's eyes burst open, shooting streams of blood like laser beams. Slimy barely dodged, but he saw the blood melt right through the wood. If that stuff touched him, he was toast. Now, time to run for it. Slimy shot a sticky line way up and started swinging through the trees, trying to put some distance between him and that psycho frog. He couldn't believe he was running again. But hey, sometimes the swamp just threw curveballs. Why did this random frog have a secret third form when everything else here was easy XP? Nothing made sense anymore. But right now, survival came first. Anyway, the frog was not giving up though. It roared and chased him through the canopy, swinging after Slimy with its tongue like it was trying out for Tarzan or something. After a bit, the frog stopped, wiping blood from its eye as its body started to glow all creepy-like. Then it cracked out a new move, Sanguine Lash, whipping a cord of blood that sliced right through Slimy's tendril and hit him for nearly 200 damage. Ouch, bro. Right away, the system blasted a warning. Some weird toxin had entered his body. Slimy started to panic, realizing his poison resistance was basically useless against this frog's blood. The frog dived down, firing its tongue like a harpoon and pulling Slimy straight into the river. Even though Slimy tried to act tough, saying the damage wasn't much, all that bravado died the second he hit the fresh water. Red alerts were screaming in his mind, his internal pressure was off the charts, and he was in real, serious trouble now. This was shaping up to be one hell of a bad day for our protagonist. Bro, things started out real bad for our hero this time. Before our MC could even try to crawl away, the huge frog just snapped its mouth shut and swallowed him whole. For a second, it looked like the frog was just chilling, floating on the water, looking super proud. But inside that belly, things were getting rough. Our MC was not done yet. Stuck in the dark, Slimy was fighting for his life, trying everything to keep from sliding down that frog's throat. But the frog's throat just squeezed tighter, and he got shoved straight into a pool of nasty stomach acid. His health started dropping, like 33 points every second, which is just insane. Pitch black, stomach acid everywhere, and panic started to take over. Our poor guy tried to use his split skill to get away or eject his core, but he was too tired, and nothing worked. Outside, that frog was croaking and splashing around, acting like it already won. But our boy wasn't about to give up. He realized he had one crazy move left. Instead of fighting the water inside that was killing him, he decided to use it. He just started drinking up all the water he could, letting himself swell up like a giant balloon inside the frog's throat. The frog instantly knew something was wrong. It started clawing its own neck, panicking, because now its throat was stretching out way too far. Slimy kept growing, filling up every bit of space, until the frog's mouth was forced open and the bulge looked totally freaky. And get this, to survive the damage from all that swelling, our boy just chugged all his hornet honey stash, healing 400 HP at a time, trying to outrun the acid and pressure. He just kept getting bigger and bigger, turning himself into a mountain of slime inside the frog. Finally, the frog couldn't take it anymore. With a huge bang, it exploded. Pieces of frog meat and bone rained down, and our MC was now a giant mountain of green jelly floating down the river. The system let him know he'd wiped out the trash, gave him a ton of experience, and even said he picked up a new antibody for surviving the venom. After the explosion, Slimy drifted through the swamp looking like some huge blob of sludge. He couldn't believe how massive he was. A little status window popped up to brag that he had a new passive skill. Osmotic Pressure Regulation? Max? His HP was now 11,870. Yup, from a wimpy 924 to basically a tank. But there was a catch. A timer said this awesome power was only going to last for an hour. Looking at his new body, Slimy realized he was floating down the river like an iceberg, with most of him underwater. For once, the water pressure wasn't killing him. Lucky break, right? But that countdown timer started to stress him out. He wasn't about to waste those 10,000 extra hit points. No way. Instead of chilling, he started feeling greedy. He thought about all the honey he used to get this big, and there was no way he could just let it run out without making the most of it. He got this wild idea, thinking he was like some giant sticky ball from a game, rolling around destroying everything. So he started rumbling through the wetlands, scooping up everything he touched. Every plant he crushed gave him more points and experience. He trampled through the trees, harvesting like a boss before his time ran out. Under the water, fish were swimming around, but when that mountain of slime crashed in, they freaked out. Too bad, Slimy was too slow in the water to catch them. The fish were gone before he could even blink, so he gave up and dragged his massive body back onto dry land. On the bank, he squashed a patch of mushrooms without even trying and slurped them up, leaving nothing behind. Further in, he spotted two little otter creatures with a fresh fish. As his giant shadow fell over them, he tried to say hi, but it came out as a monster roar. He lunged at them so fast they couldn't run, pinning them under his sticky goo. But he didn't eat them. No, our boy just rolled off, telling the otters he was stealing their fish as a tax. Those poor otters just sat there, covered in slime and staring at their missing dinner like, what even happened? Then, our boy rolled off, feeling like he was still a nice guy because he let the otters go. But that kind thought lasted 2 seconds, because then he spotted a squirrel guarding a nut, and this squirrel had a flaming tail. Instead of running away, the squirrel stood its ground, its fur getting all glowy and hot. Then, with a handstand, it shot a blast of fire right at Slimy. And bro, that actually hurt. Damage numbers were popping up in his vision. So even being a giant didn't make him fireproof. But come on, the size difference was just unfair. Our MC loomed over the little rodent and told it not to blame him for what happened next. He flattened the squirrel with pure slime power, cracking a joke about fire safety as he left behind only a white skeleton. The system pinged. More experience for the pile. Deeper into the woods, Slimy heard a crazy fight going on. There was this tough lizard getting tossed around by a tree monster with a glowing crystal heart. The lizard fought back by spitting super strong acid, which melted the tree's bark into a nasty mess. But the tree monster had a sneaky move. As it died, it shot a glowing seed into a nearby stump, then used the ground's power to regrow itself instantly. The lizard wasn't giving up, and started dodging branch spears like a pro. It made a run for the tree, but the tree was ready with a sharp branch that stabbed right through the lizard's arm. White buds grew over the wound, and a freaky flower popped open right in front of the lizard's face. The poor lizard saw the petals, but then, bam! A parasite took over, red lumps exploded out of its eye, and blood went everywhere. The tree monster smacked it with a heavy branch, sending it flying into some rocks. But that lizard was still alive, even though it was blind and shaking. It switched to heat vision and started spinning through the air like a saw, using a move called Sharp Tail. It sliced the tree monster wide open and shattered the crystal heart. The tree just exploded into wood chips, but the lizard was in bad shape, wheezing and still being eaten from the inside by the flower. As it staggered around, a huge shadow came rolling down the hill. Slimy just crushed the lizard flat, absorbing it and all its weird infections. The system warned about another creepy parasite, but his antibodies wiped it out and gave him more experience. He just focused on eating, ignoring all the gross warnings. When he looked back at the land he'd crushed, he realized the forest was still packed with trees, like they were growing back almost as fast as he could squash them. Suddenly the ground shook. In the distance, a pillar of dark energy blasted out of a mountain and punched a hole in the sky, weird glowing symbols swirling around it. Our boy just stared, totally frozen. It was massive, but totally silent, a whole new level of freaky. He didn't even have time to process before his hour ran out. His giant health bar disappeared, his mountain body turned into mist, and our hero was just a spiky little blob on the ground again. Now, our boy is checking his stats. He is now level 49 and has the Weak Creature Lord title with his HP around 3,000. It was a good start, but a notice for nutritional overload ruined it. He couldn't get any more experience for an hour. Standing in the crater he had made, he wondered if his new title just made him the king of the losers. Feeling sick from eating too much, he saw his inventory was full of rocks, bones, and wood. He threw it all up, leaving a mountain of junk on the grass. Then, finally, he feels much lighter. But now, he's lying there bored. Then, a message appeared. At level 60, he could choose a class change, or an evolution. The idea of real power got him excited. He figured that mimicry would lead to new jobs, while evolution would change who he was. He imagined himself as a great slime mold mage ruling the world with his magic. Suddenly, there's a sound of wings that broke his daydream. 3 shapes moved through the trees, a patrol of wasp mages. Slimy tensed up, remembering the magic users he had fought before. Since he couldn't take on 3 at once, he decided to follow them. He followed the squad through the branches, staying far enough back as they led him deep into the woods. Finally, he found their home, a massive city of hives connected by organic bridges. Slimy watched from the bushes, amazed at how organized the bugs were. The peace was ruined when a giant foot crushed a hive like an egg. A snake-tailed terror bird, a pale blue version of the beast he saw when he was first born, was attacking the colony. It didn't care about the stings, it just wanted to eat the larvae in the ruins. Seeing that, our MC broke out in a sweat. A red version of this bird had once terrified him, but this blue one looked even meaner. The wasps tried to attack, but their feathers were like armor. Their stings just bounced off its skin and its scaly snake tail. They tried to cover the bird to make it overheat, but the beast just shook them off like dust. The wasp mages finally attacked, shooting fireballs from magic circles. The clearing turned into an oven as explosions hit the hives. From his hiding spot, our boy was shocked by the power of the magic, which was stronger than before. But the bluebird didn't die. It actually drank the fire. Its feathers turned from blue to a bright red as it ate the magic. Now fully charged and glowing red, the bird let out a loud screech and looked right at the mages. The wasps suddenly looked scared. With a snap of its snake tail, the bird ripped through the hives. The snake's head used heat vision to find the survivors and crushed a wasp instantly. As the swarm fell apart, our hero realized the bird had tricked the mages into charging it up. It was smart. He decided to wait for the bird to leave so he could eat the leftovers, but he started to eat the dead body of a bee around him. Suddenly, the bird's wing froze solid. Then, the one who makes that come. A group of human adventurers had arrived, attracted by the noise. Nia called it a snake heron, while Rake Carter warned it was a Lord-level threat. Slimy watched from the rocks, recognizing the team from his past. The bird's wing started to thaw as it used its own heat to melt the ice, breaking free with a simple stretch. Rake Carter told Cole Fern to get a big spell ready while he held the bird back. The cool boy nodded and thanked him for the trouble. Then he said, "She'll make it drop dead with one move." The heron attacked with a huge claw, which Rake blocked with his shield. He struggled under the weight, but used a shield counter to blast the bird back. The force was so strong, it broke his shield, leaving him wide open. Then, the snake tail went for Rake's throat. But Nia's boar, Little Steelback, tackled it. He got away, but the bird was already building up power. It fired back the fire it had absorbed in a huge, pseudo-dragon breath. Rake realized that this is not good. The bird is a high-tier magic. Cole Fern acted fast, hitting the ground with his staff to make a glacial barrier. The adventurers hid behind the ice as the fire and ice crashed together, leveling the trees around them. Slimy watched in fear, realizing he was nothing compared to these guys. The ice wall started to melt, Cole Fern yelled, as he used all his power, but the barrier finally broke into pieces. The smoke cleared to show scorched ground, but the humans were still alive. Slimy could only feel bad about how weak he was. Tired out, Cole Fern warned that he was out of magic. Then, the blonde guy took charge, telling Nia to cover him while he went for the finish. Little Steelback shot quills at the bird to distract it, letting Rake use power release. He jumped high into the sky and came crashing down, his mace glowing. With the power of a meteor hammer, the hit was perfect, slamming the bird's head into the dirt and crushing its skull. The monster was dead. Now, they stood over the body and declared the fight over. Cole Fern was relieved, noticing how strong the bird was. From the shadows, our MC decided that staying near humans might be his best bet for surviving. Rake told Nia to check the bird's memories for clues about a missing boss. But as he stood near the tail, suddenly the red snake head bit him on the shoulder, regaining consciousness. At the same time, the bird's main head, which everyone thought was crushed, snapped its eyes open for one last attack. Cole Fern hit the snake with an ice spike, killing it instantly, and yelled about petrifying venom, and suggests Nia to give the healing potion fast. She tried to give the captain a potion, but it was too late. Rake's throat had already turned to stone, so he couldn't swallow. His skin turned into gray rock. Nia started crying over her leader's statue. Realizing the bird was stealing Captain's life to heal itself, Cole Fern forced Nia to run, reminding her there is no time to grieve because the bird will fully recover soon. As they fled, the snake heron stood back up, its wounds closing. It watched them go and let out a sound that showed everyone who was really in charge. Drinking a stamina potion as he ran, Cole said that he had miscalculated and that the snake heron was already at the level of a high-level monster lord. But, as long as they could get out within a week and ask the church to send a royal priest, Rake would be saved. The snake heron, however, caught up to them, landing in front of them as it cracked the ground. The cool guy was surprised to see that it had regenerated so fast, telling Nia that he would command the battle from here. The bird lunged at them, with its claws ready. Nia was frozen in fear, asking him what they should do. He told her not to be afraid, as he had already planned it out, telling her to save her magic power for now, as they would need her to get out of this lousy place later. Then he started casting his spell, as he shot his ice gatling at the bird, freezing its legs in place as the ice bullets rained down on it. But the snake heron broke through the attack, preparing to fire its flames again. Cole understood that it was about to cast high-tier flame magic once more, telling Nia to ignore everything else and just run. Seeing him walk towards the bird, she asked him what he was trying to do. He told her that he had no choice, for if he did not pin it down here, neither of them would be able to escape. He then thanked her for the magic potion before casting the high-tier magic glacial barrier, as he formed a giant wall of ice between them. She screamed out for Cole, but the other side was engulfed in flames, leaving her devastated. She clenched her teeth, getting back on Little Steelback as she rode away. She needed to leave this place and bring the reports about this weird forest back to the church. Her owl, Miwu, then caught up with her, surprising Nia, who had thought she had lost him, as their magic connection was cut earlier. But this was great, as with his vision, finding the way out would be easier. But she was then shocked to see that Miwu did not listen to her, flying away to stand on a branch. And as he turned, it was clear that the sanctified fall parasite had infected him, staring at her with its bulging eyes. This sight devastated Nia. At the same moment, in a certain sealed space, mountains of dead monster bodies were scattered around with weapons stuck in them. Guildmaster Gon sat there looking at a system window, warning him that his energetic status and man alone status had reached their time limit. He understood this, but then all the monster flesh before him started gathering together, merging into one body, as the monster said that he had seen the Guildmaster panting from a lack of breath. Then, he continued his speech by saying that in these 2 years, Gon had killed all the high-level magic beasts in the swamp forest to extinction, and he had died by his hands countless times. Then he wondered if Gon had finally used up all his assets. This entity was the king of the swamp forest, Kedoleawa. He asked Gon what he was muttering to himself, wondering if it was the thing he called the system, saying how to make his guild one of the 8 great guilds. He had relied on that. Regarding the secret of his body, he had obtained similar intelligence in other universes through transmigration, understanding that giving everything and sparing no effort was the best method to strangle and kill him. He had lured Gon into this trap, but simply did not expect him to have grown to this extent, still hiding so many trump cards. Then he thought that perhaps he would give him one last chance, asking Gon if he wanted to be made into a corpse puppet after he destroyed everything he had, or would he rather join them and conspire for the grand plan of dimensional ascension. The guildmaster said that he needed to consider it, immediately reaching his conclusion as he picked up his weapon, saying that his answer was to kill all of them as he tore them away with a single slash. Ketaleawa laughed, saying that no matter how many times he tried, it was futile, as inside this eternal barrier, he was immortal and undying, asking if Gon understood this. Another mass of flesh came up from behind the guildmaster to attack him, saying that no matter how strong he was still mortal flesh, and his panting for breath had proven that he was nearing his limit, saying that if he did not cooperate, he had to die. But Gon took out another item from his inventory, throwing the vial at Ketaleawa as it broke open, spraying true holy water. The entity was shocked to see this, but the holy water kept spreading, eating away at its body. Gon explained that true holy water can scorch the soul, so even if he was to achieve physical immortality, it was meaningless before this. It was a shame, as he was saving it to deal with the mastermind behind the scenes, but he had to waste it here. Now, Ketaleawa cursed him, saying how even the angels had fallen, questioning where he had found true holy water. But before he could get an answer, he was no more. At that moment, a system message appeared before Gon, warning that a high-energy reaction had been detected and that the target was about to regenerate. Right after this alert, the entity began regenerating at an incredible speed. Seeing this, he realized that although the final move he had used was Sanctified Fall, true holy water burned directly at the soul level. He understood that once the soul dissipated, even Sanctified Fall could not restore it unless a special condition was met. Now, Ketaleawa completed his regeneration and laughed as he faced Guildmaster Gon. He made it clear that Gon had almost killed him and mocked him for not expecting this outcome. He stated that his trump card was actually ineffective against him. The Guildmaster immediately recognized the phenomenon and identified it as the power of adaptation, questioning how Ketaleawa had obtained such an ability in such a short time. Then, the monster explained that Gon himself was the reason. He brought up the Dragon Emperor's finger that he had slashed away with a single strike earlier. Ketaleawa recalled wondering how his spear arts were powerful enough to cut through even the Dragon Emperor's skin. After the finger had been severed, he had lost all trace of it and could not sense its presence anywhere in the swamp forest. Then, he revealed that the finger had likely been encountered by extremely weak monsters who did not understand the immensity of heaven and earth. This unexpected encounter triggered the Dragon Emperor's inviolability attribute, allowing him to sense the corpse's location again and reclaim it through corpse reclamation. After reclaiming the corpse, he finally understood the truth. He realized why Gon had deliberately slashed the Dragon Emperor's finger so far away, and why Ketaleawa had been unable to sense its location. The real reason was that the Guildmaster had coated his weapon with true holy water and was afraid Ketaleawa would discover it. Then the monster acknowledged that if Gon had used that amount of true holy water on him earlier, his soul would have been completely scattered. However, due to Gon's secrecy, Ketaleawa had gained enough time to adapt to the residual true holy water on the Dragon Emperor's finger. Through this process, he had obtained the power of adaptation. Now, he declaring that Gon have played all his trump cards, and now it's time for him to die. As Ketaleawa activated his ability, an enormous stone-like hand erupted from the ground in front of Gon and crushed him within its grasp. This attack was Ketaleawa's abyss magic, Earth Burial. Despite this, Gon activated 20 layers of elemental rune tone effects, along with Earth attribute absorption. He tore through the stone hand, forced his way out, and advanced toward the monster, while wielding his spear arts, piercing all things. Then, the monster responded by declaring that, no matter how powerful equipment might be, there would always come a moment when its durability ran out. He questioned how long Gon intended to continue struggling. Following this, he unleashed another abyss magic technique, Necrotic Shriek. The attacks of the Guildmaster and the monster collided head-on. At that moment, the system issued multiple warnings to Gon. It informed him that his weapon durability was about to reach its limit and required immediate repair. It also warned that his magic resistance had dropped below 20%. Another alert stated that his body had entered a fatigued state and required rest as soon as possible. Ignoring these warnings, Gon activated 1-inch punch, combined with spiral force. Even now, his mouth is bleeding. The system immediately warned that using high-tier martial arts in his current physical condition would cause irreversible physical damage. He dismissed the warning, accepting the risk. Soon after, his weapon shattered completely. Seizing this opportunity, Keto used piercing all things against the Guildmaster, sending him crashing deep into the ground at tremendous speed. Now, Gon's condition rapidly deteriorated. Blood poured from one of his arms, and he realized that his left arm had been completely ruined. The monster mocked Gon, calling him a fool, and stating that it would have been better for him to die obediently. He accused him of insisting on unnecessary suffering, and suggested that Gon was still foolishly believing he could turn the tables. Internally, the Guildmaster admitted his mistake. He realized that he should not have saved his skills earlier. Keto was right. If he had used all the holy water against him from the very beginning, the outcome would have been different. This was a fatal miscalculation. At that point, Keto brought out the Dragon Emperor's finger and prepared to deliver the final blow. He bid farewell to Gon and declared that no matter what system Gon possessed, he could never win. The reason, he stated, was that Gon was not facing him alone, but the entire Holy Sea. The poor guy stared at the monster in silence. Then, through his system, he took out a Demon King's favor, signaling that the battle was not yet over. Keto stood frozen in shock as the demon contract was revealed before his eyes. He pointed at Gon in disbelief, calling him a hypocrite for openly opposing their plan, while secretly striking a deal with a demon long ago. As a massive shadow slowly loomed over him, his courage finally shattered. Trembling violently, he fell to his knees and begged for His Holiness, the Pope, to save him. His screams echoed through the swamp as enormous hands belonging to the Demon King emerged from the darkness. Without mercy, the Demon King activated the skill Oblivion's Grasp, crushing Keto within its palm. His body disintegrated instantly, reduced to nothing but fine dust, scattered into the air. Then, from the darkness, a demon stepped forward and casually greeted the Guildmaster, remarking that it had been a long time. Taking a good look at Gon's exhausted state, the demon laughed mockingly, calling it truly pathetic. Just like the time when the Demon King had failed to descend into this universe for the very first time. The demon chuckled, saying that this moment brought back many fond memories and that he would never forget his so-called kindness. As a reward, the demon offered to lend him his power, claiming it would be enough to wipe out those evil scoundrels. He directly called him a transmigrator, confident that this temptation would be impossible to refuse. However, to his surprise, Gon calmly tore the demon contract into pieces, declaring that they were now even. The Demon King frowned in disappointment, calling Gon a heartless man who was not falling for his schemes. Before disappearing back into the void, he offered him a final piece of advice, warning him that he had already seen the face of his death. Once the demon vanished, the swamp forest returned to an eerie silence. The Guildmaster summoned his system interface and saw that he had lost almost all of his HP and had no mana left. The system warned him that the mana loan skill was still deducting HP to repay the debt and urged him to replenish immediately. Completely exhausted, he sat down on the ground. He wondered whether the summoning of the Hope coordinate had been successful and asked the system to establish a dialogue connection. However, the system informed him that the connection had failed. At the same time, Slimy's yellow system message appeared, stating that decomposition had failed because the target was not organic matter. Our boy stared in disbelief at Captain's body, now completely turned to stone. Jumping off the statue, he picked up his mace, reasoning that since Carter no longer needed it, he might as well take the equipment. Receiving no response, he accepted it as silent permission and happily hopped away with the mace. While moving through the forest, our hero thought that if he could help the humans when they were in trouble, he might be able to hitch a ride back to the human towns with them. However, as he hurried forward, he came across a massive ice wall created earlier by Cole. Realizing that the wall was the work of a mage, he assumed the group must be nearby. He wondered whether they had already defeated the snake heron and whether he could scavenge some loot. Still, prioritizing his own safety, he decided to observe first and extended his tendrils using the search skill. The moment his tendrils peeked over the ice wall, Slimy froze in horror. The snake heron was still alive, gripping Cole's burnt body tightly in its claws. Cole's skin had been completely burned away, and without hesitation, the heron opened its beak wide and swallowed him whole. Realizing that yet another hunter had fallen, he immediately turned and ran. The heron, growing even stronger, watched him retreat. Then, our MC wondered in fear whether the remaining girl had already fallen victim as well. Elsewhere in the forest, Sanctified Fall, which had taken over the owl, Miwu, launched an attack on Nia using its dive skill. Nia quickly told Little Steelback that he was no longer their companion and ordered a counterattack. Steelback activated Spiny Back, extending its fur like sharp nails. As the owl charged toward them, however, he was prepared. Its beak began to glow as it activated Iron Beak Gale, stretching its neck and cutting everything around it. Trees were sliced apart instantly, collapsing all around as she and Steelback were forced backward. The attack carved through the forest, sending countless trees crashing down. Yet, despite the destruction, she remained unharmed, sitting among the fallen trees just as Slimy rushed into the scene.